India, we know, is decoupling from China and it's happening on many fronts. Hello and welcome to Parallel Worldview. Let's get started. Do you know 65% of phones in the Indian market are Chinese? This has happened largely in the last 7 years. In 2015, Indian phones held 68% of the market share in terms of shipments. Chinese brands held just 32%. Today, Indian brands have fallen to 1%, the Chinese have risen to 65%. This is a 99% jump in 7 years. What does this tell you? Chinese companies have wiped out Indian brands, virtually obliterated them from the market. How did they do this? First, the Chinese localized their production. They shifted their units from China to India. Today, nearly all Chinese phones sold in India are also made in India. Samsung and Apple may run out of stock. Chinese brands rarely do. The second reason is discounting. Chinese brands play the volume game. They sell devices for a smaller profit margin, so their phones are cheap and they sell in big numbers. Why do they suffer these losses? In the hope of long-term gains and capturing the market with wider consumer base. In fact, that's the third factor, market penetration. Chinese brands have their ears and feet on the ground. The CEOs of their brands in India are mostly Indians. They advertise their products to gel with the Indian psyche, and this has helped them penetrate the Indian hinterland. They won over consumers in smaller towns and cities. So, to put it simply, Chinese brands have embedded themselves deeply in India, positioned themselves firmly in the Indian market. This helps them withstand any sort of challenges or changes. Despite border disputes, political tensions, government scrutiny, even the Wuhan virus, the Chinese continue to make profits in India. 4 out of the top 5 smartphone brands in India are still Chinese and they continue to grow. And like a smartphone brand, today China is entrenched in almost every Indian sector. In 2020, Chinese firms had significant stakes in Zomato, Big Baskets, Snapdeal, Swiggy, Ola, Oyo Rooms, Byju's, The Dream 11, Policybazaar, Quikr, Rivigo, Rapido and Practo. Some of these investments were cut off most in 2020, most still haven't. India is still working on this. To safeguard the Indian market from Chinese infiltration and takeovers, in April 2020, India came up with a new rule. This was for countries which share a land border with India. Investments from these countries would need prior approval. The aim was to curb opportunistic takeovers from China. India is tightening the news on smartphone brands, ordering them to cough up billions of tax imports, seizing their assets for funds channelized outside India. The message is quite clear. India will no longer give the Chinese a free pass, no longer let them control the Indian market. And this effort is not going to be easy. China still remains one of India's largest trading partners. China also remains the largest source of Indian imports. It accounts for 15.4% of the total imports. What about India's exports to China? Only 5% of India's exports are going to the mainland. This imbalance shows why India must push back and how India still has a long way to go.